You know how sometimes you just need to cut through all the noise, especially in crypto? Well, that's what we're doing today on the deep dive. Our mission is basically to pull out the really important stuff, the insights you need from the biggest stories happening right now. Think of it as your shortcut to being properly clued in. Today, we're really digging into crypto's, let's say, ongoing push for mainstream legitimacy. It's a fight playing out in courtrooms, in politics, and even within these decentralized projects themselves. Expect some, well, maybe surprising facts and definitely some key takeaways. Okay, let's kick things off. There was this major development. It sent ripples, yeah, pun intended, across the market. A sudden jump in XRP's price. So what exactly happened? What sparked that?
Right. So the main thing, the core development, is that Ripple Labs CEO Brad Garlinghouse, he announced, I think it was just hours ago actually, that Ripple is dropping its cross-appel against the SEC.
Against the SEC, okay.
Yeah. And he basically said he expects the SEC to do the same. Apparently, they sort of indicated they would before. And the impact was, well, almost immediate. XRP's price jumped over 3%. It's 3.36% specifically, hit $2.18 just like 5 hours after Garlinghouse posted about it. That's according to the CoinMarketCap data.
Wow, okay. And Garlinghouse, he didn't exactly hold back, did he? I saw the quote. We're closing this chapter once and for all and focusing on what's most important, building the internet of value. Lock in. So, okay, beyond that immediate price reaction, what's the real long-term significance here of this chapter closing, for Ripple, but also maybe for the wider crypto market?
Well, I think the key insight here really is that this settlement, it isn't just about Ripple. It kind of signals a potential shift for the whole crypto industry, maybe moving away from this era that's just been dominated by, legal fight after legal fight towards one where building actually becomes the main thing.
Right, the focus shifts.
Exactly. And this clarity, if it holds, it could really unlock more institutional confidence, perhaps, and definitely shift attention onto the tech, the innovation, now that there's maybe a clearer regulatory path.
That does sound like a pretty big green light for building, as you said. But for you, does this really, truly de-risk Ripple in the long term? Or are there still, other regulatory hurdles potentially out there?
That's a good point. I mean, while this specific legal chapter seems to be closing, yeah, we definitely need to remember the bigger picture. The whole regulatory landscape, it's still evolving, right?
Yeah.
So this outcome, yeah, it certainly de-risks Ripple quite a bit regarding the whole is it a security question. But other regulations, global rules, those are always kind of moving targets. It's a major step forward, for sure, but probably not the final word for the whole industry.
Okay, that makes sense. So from the shifting sands of regulation, let's move over to politics, which can be just as turbulent, right? President Trump's recent comments on crypto, they definitely stirred things up, and they kind of shine a light on how these high-level figures are actually thinking about this whole space now.
Oh, absolutely. So there was this reporter, right? And they specifically asked Trump if he'd think about divesting, getting rid of his family's crypto holdings. The idea being it might ease political pressure on crypto bills in Congress. The report actually said many Democrats have said that they are not going to support crypto bills in Congress only because of you and your family's personal crypto ventures.
Quite direct.
Very. And Trump, well, he kind of sidestepped the divestment part directly, didn't really answer it. Instead, he framed crypto as an industry. He emphasized, and this is a direct quote, if you did not have it, China would, or somebody else would, but most likely China would love to. And then he added, we have dominated that industry. We have created a very powerful industry, and that is much more important than anything that we invest in.
Framing it as a national industry, that's quite a pivot from a question about personal finances. What did you find most telling about that, his choice of words there? What does it sort of reveal about the politics around crypto now?
Well, I think Trump's response gives us a really critical insight here. It suggests that for these top political figures, this growing crypto industry, it's now mainly being seen through this lens of national competitiveness, economic dominance.
Right, like a strategic asset almost.
Exactly. Concerns about, individual conflicts of interest like the reporter raised, they seem to be getting kind of overshadowed by the perceived strategic value of the industry itself. It really highlights how the debate might be shifting, less about should we even allow crypto and more towards how do we make sure the U.S. dominates this whole sector globally. And this approach, it definitely signals a different kind of emphasis in the broader political talk around crypto bills in the U.S. It's not just about financial rules anymore. It seems like geopolitical strategy, the race for tech supremacy, that's weighing really heavily now.
Okay, so we've looked at external pressures, legal, political. But what about the challenges inside the crypto world? Our next story gets into a controversy that really hits at the core of what decentralized is supposed to mean. We're talking about some pretty serious accusations against the founders of a cross protocol.
Yeah, this one's interesting. So the core accusation, it comes from this pseudonymous figure, Ogle, who's known as the founder of a Layer 1 project called Glue, and also does some on-chain detective work. And Ogle basically alleged in an X thread that some founders of this cross-chain bridge, a cross-protocol, were kind of covertly manipulating the DAO votes.
The Decentralized Autonomous Organization votes.
Yeah, exactly. Manipulating those votes, the accusation goes, to siphon off something like $23 million in funds. And where did it go? To their own for-profit company, Risk Labs. Ogle even used the phrase, described them as DAOs that are DAOs in name only. Pretty strong stuff.
Wow, yeah, that's a heavy accusation. $23 million. So how did Cross Protocol or the people involved respond to that?
Well, Hart Lambert, he founded both Risk Labs and Cross Protocol.
Mm.
He denied the claims. He put out his own post. He stated that Risk Labs is actually a Cayman Islands-based nonprofit. No shareholders, operates under fiduciary obligations, basically, legal duties to act in the DAO's best interest. He even shared their certificate of incorporation. Cointelegraph apparently verified it as a foundation company registered over there in the Caymans. Lambert was very explicit, saying, if the funds are misused, you can sue the directors. Right?
Okay, so a firm denial and pointing to a nonprofit structure.
Yes, and here's where it gets nuanced, right? There's this guide from a law firm, Harney's, about these Cayman Islands foundation companies, and it states they can have any purpose, whether commercial, charitable, philanthropic, or private.
Ah, so foundation company doesn't automatically mean purely nonprofit activities then.
Exactly. It means that even though Lambert is highlighting the nonprofit structure, the legal setup itself, well, it doesn't inherently stop funds from potentially being directed towards commercial or, for-profit activities, which is basically the core of what Ogle was accusing them of. It's almost like a classic tension, isn't it? You have this vision of pure decentralization,
Yeah.
and then it bumps up against the messy reality of legal structures and, well, human incentives.
Right. So this case then, it really raises a pretty fundamental question about how practical true decentralization actually is, especially when you've got millions of dollars involved. What's the kind of core takeaway here for anyone watching DAO governance or involved in it?
I think the key takeaway, really, is that the ideal of decentralization, the pure concept, it often clashes head-on with the complexities of real-world legal setups and just, frankly, human incentives. Even if you slap a nonprofit label on it or use a foundation company structure, the potential for funds to be used in ways that maybe the community didn't expect or intend, that remains a pretty big challenge. It just highlights, again, the need for really robust transparency, governance mechanisms that are truly decentralized, not just in name, and maybe clearer legal frameworks that actually align with the whole spirit of DAOs.
Well, okay, we have covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've seen the regulatory landscape possibly shifting for big players like XRP, maybe hinting at a pivot towards building. We've looked at the high-stakes political maneuvering around digital assets, where national dominance seems to be a really big factor now. And then we delved into the ongoing questions about governance and trust within DAOs, using that across protocol situation as a case study.
Yeah, and it's particularly interesting, I think, to see how all these forces, the legal, the political, the technological, they're constantly intersecting, aren't they?
Yeah.
As we sort of navigate this really complex, fast-moving digital world, it really just underscores how important it is to stay informed on all these different fronts, especially as crypto keeps pushing for, that mainstream legitimacy.
Absolutely. And as we watch all these stories keep unfolding, and as crypto continues this battle for the mainstream, here's something to think about. Will this increasing entanglement, traditional legal systems, political structures getting mixed up with the whole decentralized idea of crypto, will that ultimately redefine what things like ownership and governance even mean in this digital age? Or maybe will crypto end up reshaping those very structures themselves? Something to chew on. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep forming your own informed opinions.